Hi guys, thanks for stopping by my channel today. Now on this video, I'm going to show you how I made this little dry erase board out of some Sublipanel from Conde Systems, also known as Dytrans. And just to show you that it works, I have a dry erase marker and I'm just putting the word hello. Now notice that the black ink doesn't show up very well, so I should have used a lighter image. Well, that's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to use the same image, but I'm going to print it probably at about 50% opacity. I'm going to print it on this Printer's Jack sublimation paper. Then when I put it in my heat press, I'll have a piece of paper under it. I'll have a piece of paper on top of it. And then here's the panels that I have to use. Now these go in my Glowforge. So if you have a laser cutter, these are good for that. Otherwise, you could still sublimate on them, but you'd have to either use the whole board or figure out a way to cut these. Now, in the Glowforge or other laser cutters, you could use this for keychains, pet tags. Really, I think you're limited by your imagination on these. Okay, so I'm going to jump to the computer, show you my image, show you the Glowforge interface, and then we'll get it cut. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to show you what boards I'm using. It's called Unisub. It's a sublimation hardboard. And right here it shows the dimensions are 11.875 by 20 inches. Now the ones that I bought, they're sublimatable on just one side. So let's look at the price of that. And if you buy 1 to 9, they're $7.17 each. I really didn't think that was a bad price. Now shipping can get you with companies like this, so what I like to do is either wait until I need to order over $200 of items, because then you get free shipping, or find a friend that also does sublimation crafting and split an order with him or her. Now here's a two-sided board. They are a little more expensive, $11.41 each, so if you need that, it is available, but it is more expensive. Now I'm going to put a link to Dytrans.com in the video description. If you purchase from them using that link, I do receive a small commission, and I greatly appreciate that. Now that I'm in the Glowforge software, I brought my rectangle in, so I'm just going to say open. And then this is what's inside my Glowforge. I took my rectangle, I dragged it over on top of some usable board. Now this is some scrap. I tried to cut one out earlier and I used the wrong settings. So I've made my rectangle a little smaller than what's there. And really, to make sure it's in a good place, I'm going to go up here to these three dots and say set focus. And then I'm going to focus the camera right here. Now the glare you see is from the lights inside the Glowforge. With its camera, it has the bright lights up there so you can see it on your computer. Okay, so it refocused, and I feel like I need to move this over just a little bit and maybe even make it a tiny bit smaller. I don't want to accidentally cut over some of this that doesn't look good. Okay, I think that looks fine. Now with this board, when I first got it, you can see a bunch of cutouts over here. And I was trying all different settings. First, I tried to do it manually, where you measure it with your calipers and put in your settings. Then I tried a couple of settings they already had in the Glowforge, and let me show you what worked the best for me. This thick draft board worked wonderfully. At one time, I thought I used medium draft board, but when I tried that a couple days ago, it just didn't work for me. So I'm going to click on thick draft board, and then it already says cut. Your options are engrave. Notice it fills the whole thing in. I don't want that. I just want to cut it. So I'm going to click on print. And then it's going to let me know how long it will take. It's 1:34. So I'm going to go ahead and go in, press that cut button, and then we'll move to the table and I'll show you what it looks like. You might be able to hear that cutting in the background, but in the meantime, I need to print my image. So let me go back to Inkscape. Okay, I'm back in Inkscape, and remember my prior one was too dark. I really couldn't see my black ink through it. So I'm going to select my object. Then I'm going to go over to Fill and Stroke. If yours doesn't show up there, go up to Object, click on Fill and Stroke, and then it'll show up. And then I'm going to go right here and just drag this down. I think I'll print it at 50% opacity. So of course this is going to look really light on my board, but I want to be able to see my black ink. So let's see how this works out. Now if I really want it to be exactly 50, I can also use the plus and the minus symbols over here. To me, that's close enough. Now here's our print, and it looks really light, but if you've done sublimation, you know this is going to be darker once it's pressed onto the board. And then the other thing is, since I printed it at 50%, it'll be lighter than my original board, and that's exactly what I wanted. So when we're done, we'll compare 50% to 100%, and we'll see what the difference is. After this printed out, I went ahead and I put this under my heat platen. Of course, the platen was up for about 10 seconds to get it really good and dry. Now, I thought I was recording a few minutes ago, and I already took this plastic protective sheet off, but I put it on so you could see it. You always want to check and see if your item has something like this, and if it does, go ahead and remove it. Then, because the sides will have a lot of soot, I'm just going to spray some alcohol on this paper towel. And first I'll clean the sides. Now I did this when I thought the camera was going, and so you're not going to see a lot of soot come off there. But the first time I did it, there was a lot that came off. You definitely need to clean that off, because if you don't, then whoever you give this to, their hands are going to get all messy. And then I want to go ahead and clean the top. After I've cleaned the top, I'm going to take a dry part, dry it off, and then because there's a lot of fibers that could come off this, you either want to use like a lint roller, or in my case, I'm just going to wipe it on my t-shirt. That'll help dry it, and it'll help remove any paper from the paper towel. I'm almost going to just center this, but if I center it, I think I'm going to cut off the top part of this little guy here. So instead of centering it, I'll have it up a little higher, and then I'll center it from side to side. Now I do want to make sure that it's down within the design, otherwise I could have a white line at the top of this. Now it's probably hard to tell in the camera, but there is a very small line of the print there. So from the back side, I'm going to go ahead and tape this to my paper so it doesn't shift. And then I'm going to take this to the heat press. I have it preheated to 390 degrees, and then I'm going to press this for 50 seconds. Okay, so here's my project. But you know what? I forgot my protective paper. Let me grab that. Now this paper is just to protect my heat press. So I have some blowout paper to put under it. And then to protect my top platen, I have another piece for the top. So 390 for 50 seconds. Now the main thing with this is, while it's still extremely hot, you don't want to shift your sublimation paper on there. That's why we have the tape on. But when you're taking that paper off, it's pretty easy to accidentally slide it. So I want to be really careful taking it off. Now I can't remember if I showed you what paper I was using. It's this Printer's Jack 8.5 by 11. And again, I printed this at 50% opacity. And so you see the ink release was really good. So let's compare writing on these two boards. This one's really cute. The color is good. But like I showed you at the beginning, it's kind of hard to see your writing. This one's much easier. So if you're going to use these panels as dry erase boards and you want to sublimate on them, I would pick a light image, and if it's not real light, I'd go ahead and knock down that opacity. So if you're thinking about doing a project kind of like this, I hope this video helped. And until my next one, bye-bye.